welcome into the KSO show. Mason Voth here, introducing things for what you're about to get to listen to. This is the final thing directly recorded in Frisco at Big 12 Media Days. It is our conversation with Stan Weber talking about this year's team, similarities in places, guys that he expects to kind of bust out, and then a lot of talk about some of those games that we're getting ready to look at on KSO Classic and what he remembers from them. Great stories that he has. And, I mean, if Stan wasn't on the radio for all of these games, he probably would be able to have a side job as the K-State sports historian. He also, was telling us about how this is going to be his 39th season covering K-State football as the analyst on radio. He's never missed a game in that time. We asked him what situations came the closest for you not making a game. Only two stood out to him, so those are going to be fascinating to listen to. He's also been a part of every bowl game in K-State football history. He was a player on the Independence Bowl team, and then every bowl game appearance after that, he was the analyst on radio. So he's seen a lot of K-State football. We also discussed the fact that Chris Kleman is about to take over as second in all-time games coached for a K-State football leader, which is kind of crazy to think about. But that is the position that things are in with Chris Kleman entering his 7th season. So here is Drew and I's conversation with Stan Weber last week at Big 12 Media Days. Back at Big 12 Media Days, day number 2, Mason, Drew, and now Stan Weber with us. The face of the K-State Sports Network, or is that Matt Walters?
I don't know. I have no opinion on that.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as you hear the voice, the face is okay, too. I do enough TV with Ben Boyle.
Yep, that's true.
On ESPN Plus now.
Yeah.
Big 12 Now, ESPN Plus. We do a lot of basketball games, but really known for being on the radio with Wyatt.
Yes, and you guys have been a team for a long time now and gotten to see a lot of K-State football. And we talked with Wyatt yesterday. He's been able to be a part of the 3 Big 12 title teams. Obviously, you've been there as well. The expectations for this year's team would be to be competing for that same crown. Do you see any similarities to any of those teams, 03, 12, or 22, that won to the 2025 team that's getting ready to kick off this season?
Well, I like how you use the word competing, and if there are K-State fans out there listening to the words very closely, I love that part of it because it is so hard to win. And the fact that K-State has won 9 games or more 3 years in a row is nothing to be sneezed at. Last year at this time, we were sitting here with 16 teams, the same 16 teams in the conference, and we said, hey, we're going to have a preseason poll by the coaches who supposedly know some things that are going on. They chose to not this year because Arizona State was picked 16th and they won the conference. But first and second were Utah and Oklahoma State. They were unable to play in a bowl game. It shows you how quickly you can snap a finger. So competing is the key word. Success can be things different than just winning the conference. So good luck. I hope we do win the conference. Maybe you could argue that it's somewhat like the 2002-2003 season because Earl Roberson was a superstar quarterback. Maybe we hadn't seen the best of him yet because there's another level in your development. And you could see that with Avery Johnson. If he ups his game like Earl Roberson did, suddenly you could say K-State was thought to be good from 02 to 03, but not written down like Nebraska or Oklahoma or Texas would be at the top of the conference back in those days. So maybe there's a little bit of that, like the 2002 team was really good. And then in 2003, they took it to the next level. Took them a while, okay? They started off the season with some games you don't want to talk about. But maybe that. I mean, that's a little bit of a stretch for me, but that's a little bit of a reminder.
As we get closer to fall camp, training camp, and then getting closer to the game in Ireland, what are some storylines that you're really looking forward to hearing more about or seeing?
Well, the thing I'm looking forward to when we see the ultimate results, okay? So storylines with some patience because we need to see them on the field. I'm a big guy. Let's see what happens on the field before we make our true opinions, but it's a lot of fun to talk about. Okay, for me, it's the offensive line and the fact that I think K-State has done a great job of developing offensive linemen, recruiting offensive linemen to have great potentials to be good, and the guys have stuck with it. So even though some guys stayed around and took advantage of that extra year of eligibility that we got from the COVID freeze year, we had the players stay, and now it's their time to step up. Which ones will do it? You also got transfers coming in that could be a factor. So I can make a case for you that if we had time to break it all down, there may be 10 guys who are ready to be starters for K-State's football team on the offensive line this year, but 10 guys don't get a start. So how does that all unfold? Where do we go? Who steps into what positions? The coaches have talked about rotation and maybe playing more than 5 guys. Most teams don't get a chance to do that. Will K-State get to do it? But for me, where does that offensive line come together? Because to me, the 5 guys and the tight ends, which are great at K-State, are a group. So it's not just one individual or one individual. It's like all 5 of us. So I think that's really intriguing. How good will the offensive line be? Because if you got 10 guys that are about equal and they don't find 5 or 6 come together, you're not very good. If you only have 6 offensive linemen and the best 5 play great, you win.
It seems like that was what was deemed the crux of the issues in November for K-State last year. I think there were, and the players would tell you, Chris Kleman would tell you, it was a total team thing where they struggled in November. But the offensive line, they said, not being fresh led to the run game not being as potent. And we know, DJ Giddens had the most, if you look at yards per carry, greatest season in K-State history last year for that. So where do you see that in terms of how that actually impacted last year and what the flaws were in November? And do you actually think that them going with maybe a deeper offensive line rotation can fix that?
Well, I think it's a hard question. I don't have a strong answer because rotation of the offensive line is not something that I think is mandatory to see excellence.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not the NBA where they do load management. Okay, LeBron doesn't play some games because we want to be ready for the playoffs. It's nothing like that. So, like I said, if you have 5 starters who go out there and play every game, you could win a national championship. But obviously, if you had some rotation, that may lead to freshness. And as far as last year, I don't look. It's not as simple to look at one area here or there, because if you look at a loss or 2, you could look at a quarter of play at Houston in the fourth quarter. At Iowa State, take 5 minutes of action, and suddenly you have a winning. And we would flip this upside down.
Yeah.
Right. And even the bowl game. I mean, if you just stopped watching at halftime or
like my
midway
wife,
through the third quarter, you might think, this is not a good day for K-State. And then when it's all over, you go, man, this is a good day for K-State. So we got to be careful about blaming one area, I think.
Real quick, I want to ask you about that because, that was an insane game with Rutgers that they played. And I laughed because my wife took off mid-third quarter to go put her daughter down to bed. And by the time she came out, K-State had the lead. And she was like, how did that happen? You've seen some crazy games. We talked to Wyatt yesterday briefly about 2015 Iowa State being one of those weird second-half turnarounds. But what was that like to witness in person last year, and what was going through your head in that game?
Well, obviously, it was unbelievable, but it does go up there on one of the top-level games where to see that kind of turnaround was surprising. I know that you got a coaching staff that believes in what they do. K-State has weapons to score if it's a high-scoring game. But out of respect for Rutgers, the game unfolded as you got toward halftime and into the third quarter the way they wanted to, and Greg Schiano does not lose bowl games. I mean, he learned from Joe Paterno at Penn State, and Penn State was awesome at winning bowl games. And here was Rutgers, who's awesome, by the way, at winning bowl games, and they had control of the game. And now they can run the ball, throw play-action passes. So you're just wondering, how can K-State make the comeback? So it was a heck of an effort and surprise. There were games where K-State was behind by 21 points in 1999, and I was on the air with Greg Sharp, R.I.P. to love Greg Sharp. But I was like, here's how K-State's going to come back and win this game at Iowa State or Oklahoma State. Here at the Rutgers game, I was going, this does not look good. Keep fighting like we always know. Chris Kleman is never going to give up. But it was an unbelievable turnaround, because by the end is like watching one of those Olympic races or something. By the end, when you have that last push, it looked like we could have ran by Rutgers and beat them by 2 miles. I mean, we were so much the better team at the end in a game that was like this. So it was incredible, and it was such a big boost to launch into this year.
So launching into this year, you played quarterback. Avery Johnson obviously gets a lot of focus, as most quarterbacks do, especially then in his position. Where do you think or see the growth coming for him from year 1 as a starter to year 2? And how important is it to get that first year to kind of feel things out and be ready for the next year or 2 of his career?
Well, the coaches do a great job of setting situations up in practice to try to simulate what you're going to do in games. The film study, the tape, the strategy, all that is really awesome and a must. But you cannot replace what you see out on the field, okay? And when you are able to play and then put it in your mind and get a little time to think about it and work over the offseason, it makes all the difference in the world. We see a lot of veteran quarterbacks in college football have success. And so, yeah, it's completely different. Everything that Coach Wells said last year, or Connor Riley as the offensive coordinator, it was taken in very well by Avery, and he tried to apply it. But I'm telling you, when I spoke to him and I had a chance to speak one-on-one with him here, I can just tell, like, the understanding and the depth of knowing what he needs to do out on the field. And guess what you need to do? This is kind of weird. What you need to do is learn how to make the other 10 guys around you better. Put them in good situations to win. An audible here or there that helps your right guard, right tackle combination block get going might be 10 more yards. And that might be the biggest play of the drive. Because guess what? When the guys go back in the huddle, they don't just say it was another play. You and I watching upstairs, we're like, oh, that's a good play. I like that one. But that right guard and right tackle, or the whole team coming back going, oh, man, you see it. You helped us. You think of that Peyton Manning control of the game, right? Patrick Mahomes now, you hear him audibleizing, you blocked 57. He's talking to his linemen and stuff. That kind of thing. So there's a lot of subtleties. And that's where I see the growth really is for him, that he understands that it's not all about me. We're going to look that way. But for them to win, he needs to make everyone around him better, show leadership, show confidence, make some plays, but mostly trust them. DJ Giddens is not back there anymore. But how much does it matter when Joe Jackson breaks the huddle and he looks at him and goes, you got this? I mean, what a difference that would make if you're new on the field and it's a 3rd down and 7 play and we're going to surprise them with the run, and you looked at Joe and you're like, we got this, that kind of thing. Or I'm going to audibilize this. So those, I could just tell talking to him, and it's no surprise to me at all, that growth is amazing when you go from a first-year starter to a second.
What do you think the biggest difference is having Matt Wells as the offensive coordinator, who is a quarterback's coach, as opposed to like Connor Riley, who is the offensive line coach, and how does that really help Avery along this season?
Yes, we must pay a lot of respect to Connor Riley because I love this guy. He came and taught the North Dakota State / K-State way of doing things under Chris Kleman. Awesome offensive line coach. Here we are in the Star where the Dallas Cowboys practice. Their offices are right through that double doors. I've done my tour. I've been a Cowboys fan growing up. I've done my tour. Connor Riley is the offensive line coach for the Dallas Cowboys. And last year's yards per play for K-State was record-breaking level. Okay, so there's a lot of good things. But to add to it, to say what steps can we take, I love this fact that Matt Wells was around K-State football last year. He's a good offensive mind. Quarterback coach, offensive coordinator, head coach, all the things he could bring. But to have a 1 year of integration of how we do it at K-State, to keep the tradition going, because he's the first coordinator who hasn't been a part of either North Dakota State or K-State football. And there's a lot of continuity between those two types. I want to mix them together if that's okay, if that makes sense, with Colin Klein or whatever. But right now is the first time where you got a guy from the outside. So there's some good things where he'll bring ideas, but I love the fact that he was there and he understands what K-State football is about. But every time a quarterback gets to spend more minutes around the play caller, it's advantageous to the quarterback and usually the football team. So I know Connor did a great job of calling plays, and he worked very hard with Avery. Matt Wells and he worked well together. Don't forget head coach Chris Kleman, who's very involved with quarterbacks and offense. I mean, he's a defensive guru, but he's great with offense as well. So that group of guys did an awesome job. But it's easier because you might, as a player, say something and it may go into Matt Wells' ear, or you might not say it because Connor Riley's calling plays. You go, I need to say it to Coach Riley a little bit later. Right now, every word, every emotion, like if he says something and, you've been around, if it's a spouse or kid or whatever, you have nonverbal communication. Like you say something and you, what do you mean? I didn't say anything, and your wife's looking at you like, oh, you didn't like that, did you?
Yeah.
Like,
so on that front, where that makes sense is we know now the quarterbacks have the green dot; they can hear the communication. So many of these teams, it was the OC is feeding it through the quarterback coach, and the quarterback coach was the one telling the quarterback. Well, now you're in a position where it's the OC is your quarterback's coach.
Right.
You're speaking the same language.
And
it's
every day in
that
practice, every day at every meeting.
Yeah.
So how much difference does it make? It made, I can't tell. But it's a comfort level, and it gives you a chance to be that much better. And if you're a millimeter better, an inch better, an ounce better, whatever you want to use, you could be champions of the Big 12.
It can make a huge difference.
Instead of being third or fourth place. So, it fits very well that Matt Wells and Avery have worked together, but that Matt's calling plays will give a comfort level to Avery to an even better, higher level.
So, want to hit on Chris Kleman for a second. He's entering his 7th season at K-State. I don't know if you know this or are aware of this, but by the time the season ends, depending on the number of games K-State plays, if they play 13, he will be tied for the second most games coached in K-State history. If he gets to 90, which would take 14 games or more, he'd be second behind Bill Snyder. What does that kind of signify? And when he was hired, did you think that, because we know how hard it has been for K-State football, and we know it didn't go great the first time replacing Coach Snyder, did you think the longevity would be there for this and for him to get the program to where, you said it when we got started, 3 straight 9-win seasons or better. That's what the bare minimum has become for K-State football now. Yeah,
Chris Kleman has done a great job. There's no doubt about it. You could never guess, if we were setting odds in Vegas or something, that any coach hired at any school is going to last more than 5 years. And that doesn't have anything to do with failure. Sometimes it has to do with success. Hey, the Dallas Cowboys had a coaching change and your guy just got hired. But when Coach Kleman came here, and what he has done so well is he is so comfortable in his skin. What does he always say? Football's still football. And, I get a chance to mentor a lot of people in a lot of different areas of life. And the thing that Coach Kleman would say is, well, believe in yourself. If you're successful doing it at North Dakota State, sure give it a shot at K-State, because likely it's just football. And the best thing that you have, the best way to be successful is do it your way. So the fact that he brought Joe Klanderman with him, Connor Riley, and these guys said, this is going to work and we can win at this level, is awesome. Now, we got caught a big break at K-State. We caught a big break because what they say, if we drew a circle of what they want to do and then drew a Bill Snyder circle, they overlap so much. So Coach Kleman's not emulating Bill Snyder. At a media session like this, how many times do you guys talk to somebody and go, oh, you're from K-State. K-State football's been like this forever. For 30 years, K-State's been physical. They're going to run. They're going to hit you. They're going to be lined up right. They're never going to give up. Man, K-State football. And you're like, well, that's great. It's true, but it's totally Bill Snyder football and then Chris Kleman football. But we are lucky enough that his formula that could work at a lot of places is our formula too. So I love the fact that they mix the two together, even though they're completely separate entities. And that's the reason why you can continue to win and win and win. So I can't believe we're in the 7th year already. And I think after COVID, it was hard for all the coaches in the country, and everyone had to choose how they wanted to reset. And I think Chris Kleman and his staff, K-State football community, and the players all decided to come together and decided on a pattern of love and family and the things that K-State believes in. And guess what? It was like the best way to fight what we see now, which is transfer portal, non-commitment by guys, worried about money. K-State accidentally got ready for the craziness we have now, and that's why he's been able to win 9 games and just continuing flowing in, and why we're so excited about another 9+ win season.
I'll jump into our fun questions. You've been doing this for a long time now. What is
Did he just say I was old?
No.
Okay. But it's true.
Maybe you just started when you were young.
Yeah,
there
I
you
did.
go.
I did start when I was young.
So
is 25 young?
Yeah, I would say 25. But that's about our age.
Yeah, that's young. Yeah.
I would say, what is your favorite game, both basketball and football, that you've gotten to call?
Well, those are super hard because winning a Big 12 championship in Arrowhead over Oklahoma, 35-7, getting that first championship is probably the greatest football game in K-State history. So why wouldn't that be up there? I'd have to say in a category over to the side, when K-State first beat KU when I was broadcasting in 1991, when K-State beat with Bill Snyder, because I started broadcasting in 87 and we tied in 87, and then K-State lost in 88, 89, 90, and Coach Mason at Kansas had a very good team, and we beat him in 91, so that would be up there. But a personal favorite for me was, you think about the respect you should have for Oklahoma football for 50 to 75 years, from Bud Wilkinson for all you oldies, all the way through Barry Switzer and Bob Stoops.
Yeah.
In 2012, K-State started a great run to the Big 12 championship when we weren't picked.
Yeah.
When Colin Klein and the boys went down and beat Oklahoma. Dramatic game. But for me, my son Stanton, a walk-on, who's lucky even to be on K-State's team, makes traveling squad. Wow, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Then he's the backup kickoff return guy, and the guy in front of him has a hammy pole or whatever. Stanton gets into his first K-State action, real action, against Oklahoma. So we beat Oklahoma. Stanton plays on 2 special teams. K-State runs over to the K-State fans after the game to kind of give them the high fives. And, most people are wanting to clap with Colin Klein or Herbert or, the guys. But down there, I had actually brought my younger son, Landry, who ended up being a K-State football player. Landry was a little boy. And Landry and Stanton, I saw him with my binoculars because we were in a break. And Landry grabbed Stanton's helmet. And you could just see him in a brotherly moment. I go, wow, I wonder what they were doing. So I asked Landry that night. He said, I told Stanton, you just beat Oklahoma. And as a father, I was also, another thing here in Dallas, Landry and I drove from that game to the Dallas Cowboys Stadium, which was called in, and sat in Roger Staubach's suite.
Oh, wow.
And Tom Landry was the coach of the Cowboys.
Yep.
That's why Landry's named Landry. And my favorite player of all time is Roger Staubach. So you go to beating Oklahoma, Stanton playing a surprise, Landry being there, those guys having that moment together, and me going down and watch the Dallas Cowboys in Roger Staubach's suite.
Yeah.
I still got to go with K-State over Oklahoma, but it's a good battle for 2012.
What was it like for you getting to? I mean, you've had not just sons, but your daughter played volleyball at K-State. So I mean, you've gone through it all. But specifically with having your boys play football at K-State, what was that like calling games with your kids in it, especially for the roles that they serve? Where, like you're talking about, they got in the game. Oh, they're in, and then when they do something, I think that has to be so. Like from your perspective, what was that like?
Well, it's just amazing because they grew up rooting like crazy for K-State in the stands, and so it's just a dream come true to see them at my school. Also, to see them play college football and me being there. What happens if they would have gone to another school? I mean, let's say they're a superstar and they went wherever, I wouldn't have seen the game. So I never took for granted that when we were on the road and I'm watching them play, how hard it was for the other parents to make their way around the country to watch that game. But the one thing I speak to my kids about all the time, and in our family, it's kind of a Bill Belichick-ism. It's funny that he's back in college football. Yeah. He's in college football. But do your job. And we talk about that in our household all the time. I give speeches to their high school for many years, senior class, and this speech was named Do Your Job. And so it really is less emotional than you think. And maybe that's kind of sad for a lot of people that are saying, man, you probably had tears rolling down, you couldn't talk. The fact is, I'm there to broadcast K-State football games, and I want K-State to win, and I want to analyze the game, and I want to work with my partner, Wyatt, and everything else. So a little less emotion than you think until the game was over.
I was going to say, but you can tell you still get the emotion. It's just you're able to control it in that moment and still have that experience. We've been doing our KSO Classic series. We got some games we want to ask, something that sticks out about them to you. So it can be something significant from that game. So, a lot of people would remember our first game was 2003 Nebraska, which I'm sure you've got great memories of that one. Wyatt told us a great one yesterday of how after that game you basically laid out to him and his son how impactful that moment was and that they were blessed to be there for it. But the games that we want to run by you, we'll start. We asked Wyatt about this yesterday, but Friday we're going to talk 2008 NCAA tournament USC. And what was that experience like, seeing K-State back in the NCAA tournament after, a lot of time trying to find themselves as a basketball program that was, one of the best in the Big Eight.
Yeah, I can see myself there in Nebraska, Omaha, watching that game and excited for Frank Martin to get over the hump, because my first year doing every basketball game, I think I'm on my 39th straight year doing K-State football, but my 21st year doing every K-State basketball game. And so I did Jim Woolridge's last year.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, my first ever broadcast in Lawrence against KU. K-State won. I like.
Oh well,
here we go.
This is easy.
They haven't won since in Lawrence. Yeah. I'll give you that. But then I could tell when Coach Huggins came in, like, okay, here we go. I knew we were going to win, but then he left after a year. So even when you know things are going in the right direction, there's got to be some patience and you got to wait. So to see Frank get over the hump, see those guys play, it was a big deal. And it was more of a big deal not because, this is the great explosion that year and we're not going to be back. It was more to me an accumulation and finalization of the move, and we were now going to go to the NCAA tournament most years from now on. And I've been lucky enough to live that, from Frank Martin to Bruce Weber to Coach Tang.
Before I forget, you mentioned 39th straight year doing K-State football. You haven't missed a game in that period. So do you know when things kick off in Ireland, like what game number that is, how many stadiums you've broadcasted?
I don't know how many stadiums.
That might be a good off-season project for your family.
That'd be fun, yeah. It'd be more fun for people like us.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
My family's like, whatever.
Yeah.
I got married in June. I got married in
hey.
June of '87, and I started broadcasting. So my wife knows nothing more than, more K-State games. We all love it and all of that. But, no, I do know the games. 468 straight K-State games, so I'll be hitting 469 when we go over to Ireland. So 39th year, 469. And what's really crazy is I'm about, I don't know the exact number, about 20 wins away. If I broadcast 20 more wins, I will have broadcast 300 K-State wins. At that point, when K-State sees that 300th victory broadcast by me, it'll be the 599th win in K-State football history. I will have done more than 50% of all K-State wins.
That's insane for a lot of different things.
It's just slightly over 20, so it's 3 seasons.
Yeah, okay.
Almost for sure in the third season from now, 25, 26, 27, we're going to win. Unless we go win a national championship and win the college football playoff, it might be a year earlier.
That'd be the way to do it.
But that's the one when I did some numbers, I was going, wait a second, I'm about ready to. I'm not too far off from. So because I like winning.
Yeah, okay? That's fun.
It's not just fun to broadcast. I want K-State to win.
So I guess off of that, I want to ask you. You've made all those games, but are there any specific close calls you can remember where travel or something else going on in your life? Like I always think about, for some reason it's golf that always the big deal's made when a tournament's going on. Like, oh, the wife's 9 months pregnant, the baby could come whenever. Phil Mickelson in the beeper that they were focused on, like, when's it going to go? He's going to bail on the U.S. Open. Is there something like that in your life where you had a couple of
there's only 2 sequences. One is COVID.
Yeah.
When we just didn't know what was going to happen. How many games were going to be played? Was there going to be a football season? And were we going to be able to travel? Some teams actually stayed at home, went to a studio, watched the game on TV, and broadcast it over radio. So as long as we were allowed to go, there would be no problem. Then there wasn't for the COVID year. But the most interesting, not scary at all, but most interesting, is my wife was fully pregnant in 1998. Okay? And on September 17th of 1998, I actually do a lot of stuff with the business college as well. I'm a chair of the Accounting Advisory Council for K-State, and the only one in the whole time. I'm on the Dean's Advisory Council. I care about the whole university.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So I'm over there working or helping or whatever. I'm in Manhattan, and all of a sudden I get a call, and my wife says, I think I'm about ready to have this baby. I'm heading to the hospital. So I drove from Manhattan to Kansas City, got there in plenty of time, and Landry was born that evening. Now, what happens if Landry would have been the next day? That's when K-State stuffed Ricky Williams and introduced Texas, one of the greatest games ever. I know it was a blowout, 48-7 or something. But Ricky Williams won the Heisman Trophy, and against K-State he had 50 yards rushing. We dominated those boys and said, welcome to the Big 12. That was the day after. So Landry's birthday is the 18th, so it was the 19th, the night of the 18th and the 19th. That's probably the closest. I wasn't nervous because I was too naive about it.
Yeah.
But then when he was born, I was like, what would happen if this were 12 hours later? But instead, I was able to make it back to Manhattan very easily. And my mom, proud grandma, we were on the Armed Forces Network. Greg Sharp and I were on the Armed Forces Network around the world, and Greg had to say during the broadcast, well, Stan, you had an exciting night last night, bringing your 4th child into the world and your son Landry. And my mom's like, the whole world heard that Landry was born. But Landry's pretty happy, I'm telling you, to be born in 1998.
Yeah.
He likes going back
Well,
and
we're a
looking at
couple
the history.
98 guys, too, so.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
what day is your birthdays?
November 20th.
Okay.
April 2nd.
Oh, Landry's right in between.
Yep, so there you go.
You guys can all talk about
What
how
a
great
year.
a year it was
Yeah, exactly.
and go study it.
All right, so some of the other games that I want to get your take on, we're going to do the 97 Fiesta Bowl. So what do you remember about K-State being Donovan McNabb and Syracuse?
Well, first of all, you got to go back and look at the roster of Syracuse. They had 4 or 5 great NFL players, like all pros, including Donovan McNabb. It was legitimate big-time football. It was December 31st, and we were playing the Fiesta Bowl down in Arizona State's current stadium, Sun Devil Stadium, and it was a show. It was the introduction to K-State playing at the next level. When you think about 1998 and a chance to win a national championship, this 97 team grew and grew and grew and won a ton of games, 11 games and all of that. And they had the disappointing loss in Lincoln, Nebraska early in the season. But that team had a little bit of a roller coaster. It was fun. Michael Bishop was great and all that. But when that 97 last game of the year was played, oh my gosh, Darnell McDonald going off. K-State, poetry in motion in football. Syracuse was great. The game wasn't easy for a while. It took a while for K-State to go. But when you finished the game, you were like, if these teams played for 3 more games, K-State's going to win every one of them. When Bill Snyder got him by the neck and Michael Bishop, and that was the preview of 1998. That team in that night on 1997 could have beat anybody, and that's we all grew up. Night game, walked down with Greg Sharp and my wife Nancy and his wife Amy, and we just said, well, let's go watch the fireworks go off. Because it's getting close to midnight and there's a big party like 2 blocks away. And so, that 1997 game was one of the best K-State football teams for one game that you've ever seen.
Then we're going to later on you talk about Arizona State 2002 Holiday Bowl. Pretty exciting game, good scoring. Well, what do you remember from that season? Because what I can remember from my time of doing the game on K-Man is whenever we talked to a player from that era, they would obviously talk about winning the Big 12 title in 2003, but a lot of them would say they thought that 2002 was the best team they played on at K-State.
Yeah, 2002 took a while to find itself, and then early 2003 did as well, but that was a heck of a battle. The Holiday Bowl was one of the biggest bowls in the Big 12 category where, you want to go to the Cotton Bowl, but if not, the Holiday Bowl was right up there. So the team that they played against Arizona State was really good. It was a heck of a fight all night long. You think about the speed of Terrence Newman is the thing that I think about out there.
Cowboy.
One of the highest draft choices. Verl Schweitzer, I think, is the highest draft choice in the NFL in K-State history. But Terrence Newman was really close. He was number 7 to the Cowboys, something like that. But the K-State had to do so many things right to continue to stay ahead. So it was just a K-State victory. Like, people may not understand how good Arizona State was because it's so easy to think we won another game. Oh, we won another game. Oh, we won 11 games. You start taking that things for granted. But when you're on the West Coast playing a team like that, so, big-time win. And it did, again, like 97 set a preview for 98. Yeah. That 2002 game kind of gave you a hint that this team's got some grit about it.
Last bowl game I'll hit you with. It's maybe one of the most important and iconic ones in K-State history, but the 93 Copper Bowl. So Drew and I know that was one we were like, we need to go back and watch it from start to finish.
That one's way before our time.
Yeah, 5 years away. I think as you get older, 5 years doesn't become like such a big chunk of time. But what do you remember about the 93 Copper Bowl?
It's the explosion of K-State football because Bill Snyder had already built things up really well. And in 1990 we were 5-6. Winning one game in '89 from going to like a team that was like kind of a -5 if that were possible. In '88 to winning one and competing in '89 might have been the greatest year of improvement ever, but most people just say it went from 0 to 1, right? So Bill Snyder had done a lot of great things and happened in 1991. You beat KU. 1993, you beat KU again. But K-State hadn't been to a bowl game except for the 1982 season when I was there at K-State. Mm-hmm. And so you needed to go back and confirm that we can travel and have this event. But what happened was an explosion of K-State that has never stopped. One of the things that happened when we got there, K-State fans are generally very friendly and respectful.
Yeah.
These are great words, okay? These are great human words. You might not think about it when you go into Bill Snyder Family Stadium. Now you think about the raucous atmosphere. Yeah. So I'm gonna brag about that. But back then, we go to a bowl game and we go to a parade, and you say, well, no one's going to be disrespectful and boo the president or the AD of the other school. You know, you're just let them cheer, let us cheer louder. There are no Wyoming fans there at all. I went over to the parade before the game, and it was all K-State. So guess what K-State fans started doing? Cheering and cheering and cheering, and the confidence level continued to go up, and the chest puffed out more and more. And I go, ooh, I've seen this from Nebraska fans. Like, they walk into town and go, we got this. And K-State fans were starting to turn into the old Nebraska fans. Like, you walk into town, beer sales go out, you're going to go win, you know. And you could just see that at the parade. The respect level was there because there were no Wyoming people. So let's just cheer for our team. A couple days before, or a day before, we had a pep rally. Bill Snyder went to Mitch Holtis. The longtime voice of the Chiefs was a 9-year voice, 9 years with me and 11 years play-by-play voice at K-State. Bill Snyder went to him and said, hey, we ought to put a pep rally together down in Arizona. It's at the University of Arizona down in Tempe. Yeah. And we're at this fancy golf course hotel, super nice. And so Mitch says, here's what we're going to do. We're going to try to do it. And while we were down there for bowl preparation, we spent a ton of time with our wives and everyone who's on our radio crew going around to every hotel that we could possibly think that might have K-State fans and putting up signs saying, we're going to have a pep rally. Now, you could not put it out on social media back then and say it's a done deal. We had no idea how many fans were going to come to the trip. No one knew. First trip in a bowl in modern history. So we put on signs. We go over to the hotel and get ready for this pep rally. The football team shows up after a walk through at the stadium, and the buses can't even get close to the front door of the hotel. The place is packed. Fire codes probably being broken everywhere. Because have you seen some of these conference centers where it's like how many yards wide? 20 yards wide or something? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was packed out the front door, and when the football team started to come into the pep rally, they had to go in single file from the front door.
That probably took forever.
Through the lobby, through the hallways, and then he walked into this big conference room. In the conference room, we were live on the air doing a show. Mitch was up hosting the show, the pep rally, and I was on the air back to Kansas talking about the pep rally. And when we'd go live, I'd go to break. So Kevin Harlan, the famous Kevin Harlan, was there doing the game with Craig James. ESPN had not done that many bowl games. He was there, and we asked them to come over. So they came and spoke, and here comes the football team. And, I mean, their eyes were this big. If you are old enough to know what a Hearn Fieldhouse was like, it was like that. It was packed. We were shoulder to shoulder. The band was playing. The roar was unbelievable. And the football players walked in, turned around, and standing right next to each other. Bill Snyder, maybe a captain spoke. I don't know. We had to let them go out through the kitchen and the back way. But that pep rally was the greatest pep rally. Then the game, Andre Coleman running back, Chad May throwing the ball around the field. K-State lit them up on ESPN, and the K-State crowd went crazy. When we came back the next year, everyone started buying and wearing purple, silver, and white. Now you go to a game, doesn't everybody have the purple on?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you go to a game in 1990, some did. The explosion in bowl win in 93 catapulted us to being the new Nebraska. The fans, chest out, traveling, the great. We're still respectful, but we want to win the game. So we yell loud when the other team's on offense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You get it? That was the night it exploded.
You mentioned you've been to every K-State bowl game in school history.
Yes.
You were on the Independence Bowl team, and then everything that Coach Snyder and now Chris Kleman and the one Ron Prince in the Texas Bowl. Which bowl destination is your personal favorite to go to? There's been a lot of trips to the Tempe, Phoenix area.
You didn't ask what we were going to talk about, did you? You didn't tell me before?
No.
This is all brand new, right?
Yeah.
Well, give me a Jerome Tang does. We do a lot of fist pumping with the basketball team. Easy question.
Okay.
Easy. A lot of these are hard because there's a lot of great games, right?
Yeah.
Cotton Bowl.
Oh,
By far the best.
That makes sense.
So historic, easy for us to travel to.
Yep.
If you drive down to the Cotton Bowl or go home driving in the Cotton Bowl, you're like, I'm glad I didn't fly, because every time you go to a stop off and want to grab something to drink or go to the bathroom, it's full of K-State fans. The pep rallies are giant. The stadium's filled with K-State. But the Cotton Bowl committee is by far, Carl Ice has been, K-State Ice basketball facility. He has been the president of the Cotton Bowl for certain years. He's on the committee. They treat the media and the players and everyone associated with it 2 to 3 times better than any bowl. Now, I've not been in the Rose Bowl. I've not been in the Orange Bowl, so I'll give them a little bit of respect. But the Cotton Bowl is by far the best. The red carpet that they lay out, the activities that they provide, and the setting for K-State. To play in that game, it's easy for me to say Cotton Bowl is the most fun.
I think that's one of the cool and the fun things about going to a bowl game is when you do drive. And even if it's not somewhere that's close, I've driven to bowl games in Phoenix. I've driven to bowl games. I drove to Orlando for the Pop-Tarts Bowl. And you still, same type of deal. You see K-State fans and seeing that purple everywhere. We'll end this tying it back to the 2025 team. Give us one name on offense and defense that when you and White are calling games, you maybe haven't said their name a ton in past years, but this coming season and beyond, you're about to start saying them a lot more, and fans are going to go, oh, we've heard his name 3-4 times every game this year.
Well, I mean, Joe Jackson would be probably the easiest on offense because we've heard Dylan Edwards. And so I would say them. There's a chance that a receiver could pop. I would say one of the tight ends, but I don't want to be disrespectful to the other 3.
Because all 40 of them are great.
Yeah, I mean, you got probably 5 guys. And they'll rotate in, and they love each other. That tight end room represents K-State football as well as anything. Like, they keep piling great recruits on great recruits, and guess what they do? They don't get selfish. They are warm and say, come on in, I want to teach you how to win. And fortunately, tight ends can play a lot. You can put 3 on the field. They're all happy for each other. So I don't want to say one of those guys, but I could. I could say 1, 2, or 3 of those guys, right? On defense, I think that we haven't talked about Austin Romaine as much as we are. Because there's one thing everyone wants to say, the development from the guy I don't know or the recruit who's going to step in. And, hey, I'll love that. But the real step is when you've already played and started, and then you grow up and become even better. So our secondary is going to have some guys show up that you're going to like. But I think Austin Romaine, from just being a good player to, like, being a really superstar player and that growth, kind of like I expect Avery Johnson. I expect a giant jump from Avery, and that's no cut down to where he was last year. But it's not because of the hype of what I heard from 2 years ago.
And that's what I've said to people, too, is if you thought that Avery didn't have a great year last year, then, boy, I think you're in a great spot if you're K-State and Avery Johnson for what's coming next.
I thought he had a great year, but it's part of the development. And Austin Romaine's growing up on the other side of the ball. So Joe Klanderman, I tell him all the time, the most underrated defensive coordinator, probably assistant coach in all the country. He is doing a great job. Chris Kleman, what a guru. We talk about Bill Snyder being an offensive guru. He was, and a great head coach. Chris Kleman, defensive guru and a great head coach. And, oh, by the way, he's got a lot of NFL guys in the quarterback position as well. So we are in such a great spot at K-State. You are going to be proud of K-State because they're your team. They're our team. So no matter what, we're going to love them and fight and hope and see the good things. Let me tell you, down in the depth, behind the scenes, you should be super proud of how these guys do things, how good they are, how together they are. They represent everything you hope that you would see in your own personal family. Family. And that's high standards because we're a football team, right? But that's the kind of connectivity that you get from a Kleman to a Klanderman to the whole defensive staff that are with them. So that tight end room, I could just go on and on and on. Does that equal national championships, does it equal 10 wins? It gives you a heck of a chance.
Yeah. And that's
super to be proud of. Root your head off for these guys.
And that's really, I think, in this current version of the Big 12 with 16 teams, which is a crazy amount, I don't think anybody's ever going to be able to separate themselves enough. That's really some people won't like to hear it, but I think that's what the goal should be, is just making sure you have a team that gives yourself a chance to compete every year. That's about all you can hope for, because I don't think we're going to see one of those teams run away and go on a 10-year dominant stretch like basically Oklahoma had from 2013 until 2021.
Yeah, and don't forget we don't have like-kind schedules.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here today and break down and say who has a hard one and who doesn't, because we don't know.
Yeah.
But at the end of the year, we'll know and go, oh, wow, their 9 games are completely different than this team's 9 games. And you might sit there like BYU.
Oh, we did with K-State last year.
They should have been in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
Take K-State out of it for a second. They should have been in the college football. They beat SMU.
Yeah.
At SMU. And did the work that they did. So, but it's one of the things you got to think about is different schedules. Yeah, just compete and be there. Have your down years not be very far down.
Yeah.
That's really the greatest thing.
All right, well, Stan, we appreciate it. You letting us take your entire afternoon, and we'll get you on to bigger and better things here at Media Day to close it out.
First win in Bramlage in basketball with Frank Martin and the boys. Beasley,
Sacramento State.
I'm just saying that you asked me about basketball. I don't like not answering the question. So
I was at that game too. So
Jacob Poland hitting free throws as a freshman. I'll put that as my number 1 basketball game right now.
Perfect. Great way to end it. That's a great team to think about. All right, and we appreciate Stan for joining us last week down in Frisco, getting to talk everything K-State. Reminder that you need to go to cats2ireland.com for your travel, hospitality, and ticket info to get set up to make sure you're watching the Cats and Clones in the 2025 Aer Lingus College Football Classic. It's going to be a great experience over there. And now it was firmly announced last week that WWE is going to be running some kind of wrestling event the night before. Mitch Fortner is jazzed for that thing. Don't know that I'll be there, but if you needed some other kind of event to get you over to Ireland, I don't know, maybe that's the kicker. We'll see. But make sure you go check it out, because August 23rd is coming up rather fast. Both Chris Kleman and Matt Campbell discussed that last week at Big 12 Media Days about, it's right here in front of us. We'll see how both coaches handle it when they get over there. I think Chris Kleman is handling it a little bit better in the lead up based off of some of Matt Campbell's comments, but that might be something we discuss later on in the week when we kind of dissect more that took place here. Also still on the horizon, we will talk to Avery Johnson sometime in the near future with a one-on-one, since we weren't able to get him down in Frisco because he was one of the most popular players that was there. I think him and Sam Levitt, probably the 2 most sought-after quarterbacks, really players that were there. Day 2, Sawyer Robertson, or day 1, Sawyer Robertson was there too. The day 2 guys, not as great. A lot of teams that didn't bring quarterbacks on day 2. So we have that to look forward to, and we'll have a KSO Classic on Friday, some regular shows throughout the week. Recruiting updates, we'll kind of hit pause for a little bit. There's not much to discuss on that front right now as this kind of moves into a slow period before the season starts back up, and then it'll get going fast and furious. But that'll do it for today's edition of the KSO Show. For Drew Galloway, I'm Mason Voth. Thanks for watching and listening to K-State Online.